Hi everyone, my name is Robert Rowen. I'm an integrative medical doctor and I have been doing ozone for 33 years, longer than anyone that I know of in North America. Some people on my Facebook page and others have asked me to make a YouTube video about my thoughts on what's going on with this coronavirus, and here I am. The World Health Organization today has declared coronavirus to be an international emergency, and our own government now has declared it to be an emergency. So it's probably timely to discuss this. And I don't usually put myself out in my videos. Usually it's patients, but this time I want to explain to you my thoughts on this. The coronavirus has started in China, and to be honest with you, I don't understand why we have not had some type of pandemic in the last 100 years. The great influenza pandemic of 1918 killed millions, and it should happen every so often just as a course of nature, and fortunately it hasn't. Well, now this coronavirus has come out, and it's not an influenza virus, but it does have lethality. And the lethality in a respiratory virus is not in the sniffles that you get or the cough, and you'll probably hear me clear my throat, that's just me. But the lethality is when the virus settles in the lungs, in here, causes inflammation in the lungs, you get a viral pneumonia, and you die in your own secretions, unfortunately. And that's not well treatable. Medicine has very few weapons to treat viral disease, and virtually nothing for this. The virus also sometimes can cause what's called a cytokine storm, where the immune system comes on so aggressively that the immune system itself punches holes in your system and allows leakage, and you drown in your own fluids. And that's how Ebola kills. Ebola kills by eliciting a cytokine storm. Your immune system is delayed, finally goes after the virus, and in the process, you get damage too. It's called collateral damage. I've been doing ozone therapy for a long time, so I know it's biochemistry, and I have felt comfortable with it. We've literally done tens of thousands of treatments, probably a lot more than that. And my colleague Howard Robbins has done hundreds of thousands of what he calls DIV, direct intravenous ozone, and I'll show you a little demo of that, make believe. In any event, because I understand the chemistry of ozone, and I started reading about the biochemistry of these viruses, I thought that ozone would be good for Ebola. It turns out that a lot of these viruses, most, probably, maybe all, but from what I can tell, most, need what's called reduced sulfhydryl groups to enter the cookie jar. So let's pretend that this is a cell, and the virus has to get into the cell. If the virus doesn't get into the cell, it can't do anything. It doesn't matter how many viral particles you're exposed to, if they're not active. If they can't get in and open this up to get into the cell to multiply, there is no issue. Well, the viruses have on their surface an amino acid called cysteine, cysteine. And when it's active, it carries what's called a reduced sulfhydryl group. And just for analogy, it looks like my hand with fingers. And these are the SH, the reduced sulfhydryl groups. And that's how the virus then can enter the cell, open it up, pop in, multiply, and then cause real carnage. What ozone does, these groups, these sulfhydryl groups off the amino acid cysteine, are extraordinarily vulnerable to being oxidized. And if that happens, if they get oxidized, they just get chopped right off. It's not there. So the virus now is still there, it's got its DNA intact, but it doesn't have fingers to get into your cell, and no matter how hard I try, I can't get in to open this. Viruses don't have enzymes or machinery to fix that kind of damage. That's called oxidative damage. They just don't have it. They need our cells to do everything. If the virus gets inactivated this way, it's inactive. It can't do anything. Our cells are oxygen-breathing cells, so our cells do have the repair mechanisms to fix this type of insult to them. It's not really an insult. It actually is fairly good because it's exercising them. It's exercising their oxidation status. Example, if you want to build muscle, you pump iron. And you get a little bit sore, but your muscles respond by getting stronger. Well, our cells can do that in the presence of these oxidant stresses, and they are loaded with enzymes to fix the ding that it gets, such as superoxide dismutase, catalase, glutathione peroxidase. Our cells can do this. The virus cannot. Now, I surmised that Ebola would be very vulnerable to this. And based on its biochemistry, it's rich in these sulfhydryl groups. So I recruited, by the way, I'm going to show you some articles. They are all available on our website. This is Rowen, Sue, my wife, su.com, DRROWEN, DRSU.com. And all of the articles are on here. And if not, then you can get links. So you can go to the website and read what I've posted about ozone and also get to the articles. So let's go to the articles now. This is the first one, and it was published in the African Journal of Infectious Diseases. You can get a little closer if you like. In 2016, and this is where we got to 5 cases of Ebola. All 5 responded instantly, and they all recovered, and they had no sequelae. And Ebola has about a 70+% sequela rate. That means after you recover from the infection, if you do, 60% chance of death, then you are left with a 70% chance of long-term problems from the infection. All of our patients recovered almost instantly, and none of them had what we call sequela or after effects. The odds of that happening by sheer chance are about less than 1%. So that did pretty well. Of course, we published it. The world didn't take much notice about it because the world is run by pharma. But let's look now at an article that I just published a couple weeks ago. This is in Medical Gas Research, December 2019. And this says, ozone and oxidation therapies as a solution to the emerging crisis in infectious disease management, a review of current knowledge and experience. So that's available online, and you can get the link at the website. Good summary of ozone right now as far as its ability to help with infection in general, both bacterial and viral. So what about coronavirus? It didn't take me long, but I did some research on the basic biochemistry of the coronavirus, and it too is rich in these sulfhydryl amino acids, cysteine in particular. So that says to me this should be rather easily treatable with ozone, because ozone's going to come along and knock off the fingers so the virus can't enter the cell. Ozone therapy is extraordinarily safe, and I relate that in these articles, but just to let you know that I know of, in my own hands and in Robin's hands, probably 350,000 treatments of ozone. And the worst that has happened that I know of for any long-term incident is a vein might get a little sclerosis. I'm not going to say a little. Over time, the vein might actually get knocked off. If you're doing it with his preferred method, which is direct intravenous gas. In direct intravenous gas, a syringe gets filled up, and here's 20 cc's, we'll say, of gas, and it gets slowly injected intravenously through a vein. And you're going to say, gas, air, bad. Not so. This is not air. This is oxygen. It's 100% oxygen, and 1 to 5%, less than that actually, a couple percent is O3, ozone, but it's all oxygen. Oxygen is a metabolic gas. It's rapidly consumed. It's not air. The problem with air going in your vein like this is nitrogen. Nitrogen's not soluble, and yes, it can cause a nitrogen embolism. That's what the bends is all about. But this is oxygen. That doesn't happen. The oxygen is rapidly taken up. But truthfully, you can get some vein irritation if the ozone is delivered this way. So in our office, we prefer to take blood out of you in a bottle like this. The blood goes up. We add ozone. Ozone gets mixed. And then the blood goes back in you through the vein. And we've not seen any vein issues with this. Zero. Of course, anytime you break the vein enough with a needle, no matter what you're putting into it, you can irritate the vein. That goes without saying, no matter what it is. So ozone is extraordinarily safe. Ozone creates a whole stream of downstream molecules called ozonides. The ozone instantly reacts with components in your blood, so it's gone in microseconds. But these ozonides are long-living molecules that are reactive oxygen species that talk to your immune system. They communicate to get your immune system to come online, number one. And number two, they are reactive oxygen species, less so than ozone, but they themselves have the ability, as oxidants, to knock off the fingers of the virus. So you get a prolonged effect from a single treatment with it because of the ozonides. So while there's a worldwide emergency and people are dying in China, and fortunately no deaths in the United States, I don't know if the coronavirus is as bad as what they're portraying it or worse. There's got to be a real problem because even though China has only admitted a few hundred deaths to this point, we don't know what the truth of that is. We don't know how many people who get infected or who get exposed actually get infected, and we don't know how many people who get infected are going to go on with serious conditions, or at least I don't know. Now, if they did have a serious condition and I saw it, I'd be doing ozone immediately. But there is concern that this virus is going to spread. It's not Ebola. Ebola needs intimate contact, so it's not air transmissible. This is air transmissible. This could become a worldwide pandemic, and if this doesn't happen, it's going to happen sooner or later. And I am proposing ozone therapy as a very safe and what I believe is a highly likely effective treatment for this, no matter what form the ozone is given. Are we going to see movement in this direction? Well, it's like pulling teeth. The problem with ozone is it cannot be patented for profit. It's way out of patent. Nikola Tesla patented an ozone generator in the United States around 1900 or so. But it's long gone, so you can't make money off of it. Well, if you can't make money, you don't have any interest in spending the $150 million needed to get it through a regulatory agency to make it generally widespread. And that's the sickness in our medical system today. The only thing that's going to get out there is something that's going to make what I call bazillions for pharma. They will make the money. They have the incentive to invest in it. They'll make the money back 50 times. You can't do that with ozone. So you have a treatment that for a syringe, I mean, what is the cost of this? The cost of the syringe and a needle. Of course, you need an ozone generator and you need compressed oxygen and you need some talent to do it. But in the third world, like in Africa or in China, the cost of the labor to do it is negligible compared to this country, and the cost of this is negligible no matter what country you're in. So I'm putting this out to you on YouTube now. I hope you'll share it. May this video go viral so the whole world knows that there's probably an extraordinarily safe and extraordinarily effective treatment for these diseases, and we can bring the fear issue down. Just know where you can get it. You can talk to your medical doctor about it. There's a wealth of publication on ozone therapy in the medical literature, not just my articles, but it's in PubMed. You could go to PUBMED, PubMed.com, type in ozone therapy, and you'll see a lot of articles on it. Sadly, the mainstream journals don't want to cover it because, and this is my opinion, they have a vested interest in the industry. They have advertisements from pharma. They're closed-minded. If it's not approved, if it's not out there, it must not exist. So ozone suffers from the condition called the tomato effect. JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, defined the tomato effect as a likely efficacious therapy that's not out there because no one simply believes it. Well, I say believe it, because it's real, and in this office we see infections going away really fast. We had a case this week of Tim, who had tick bite cellulitis on his abdomen like this. He's actually published on my website. And he had a tick bite on his legs a few years ago. We just did ozone. Tick bite cellulitis was gone in 2 days. He came back with another one. He doesn't learn. He just has to go out and get tick bites. So he had a big cellulitis here, and just ozone treatment. He refuses antibiotics, and it's fading away. He's sending us pictures every day. I came back with a bad virus from Europe a couple years ago when I went to a meeting. And I don't get sick very often, but when I travel in airplanes, I do. I can get sick, and I took the high-dose ozone treatment by the bottle method, and I was at work the next day, which is really nice, feeling wonderful. That's the typical reaction. It's not everybody. So, if you're concerned, please read about ozone. There's other oxidation therapies. Ultraviolet blood irradiation will have a similar effect. High-dose vitamin C intravenously will have a similar effect, because the National Institutes of Health has conducted a study that high-dose C acts as a prodrug, meaning it will convert molecules in your blood to hydrogen peroxide. So it's an oxidation treatment. Ozone is believed to work through hydrogen peroxide mechanisms. So the three choices for this would be ozone, ultraviolet blood irradiation, and vitamin C. And vitamin C has made news and publications as a treatment for infection, but it needs to be rather high doses intravenously. You cannot achieve this easily with oral vitamin C. So a couple other things with regard to ozone mechanisms that are of interest. One of ozone's mechanisms is to improve oxygen availability. It is found to increase the amount of what's called 2,3-DGP diglycerophosphate in the red cell, which enables hemoglobin to dump its oxygen in your tissues. What good is a train carrying cargo if it doesn't let go of the cargo? Hemoglobin is induced to release its cargo of life-sustaining oxygen with ozone therapy. Ozone also improves red cell flexibility, improving circulation. That's called blood rheology. Also has been shown to likely improve mitochondrial oxygen uptake and consumption, creating more energy. All of these things are important to fight infection and for maintenance of your body. Ozone directly kills microorganisms. We've talked about that, although in this particular case it's more likely the ozonides that are inactivating the viruses. And very importantly, ozone modulates your immune system. A series of articles by Vilio Bacci, MD, a great ozone researcher, guru who recently died, and Silvia Menendez of Cuba. Bacci was from Italy. They've published scores of articles and published 2 books, at least more actually, that ozone modulates your immune cells, and they produce more cytokines, which is how your immune cells talk to each other. This process reduces what's called the cytokine storm. It modulates it so that if your immune system is out of whack like this, it brings it into balance. If it's out of whack like this, it brings it back into balance. And I believe that's one of the other reasons why the ozone therapy was so successful with Ebola, because it totally whacks out the immune system. And in addition to inactivating the virus, I think the ozone is going to modulate it and bring it back into balance, as it will with any infection. I hope that helps. If you have questions, you can email the office. You can go to my Facebook page and ask some questions there, and you can ask questions on this video. Thank you very much for being here, and I hope you'll share.